Is that what that was
Yeah, I'm
about?
pretty sure it did come through because he's a fucker and he's out there soliciting like Veronica was
I don't know what
on the
you're
last
talking
day.
about. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, so
Hey, coming to you live from Pistol Podcast.
you're just in a jovial mood all of a
man,
sudden.
I just
you
got excited.
motherfucker.
All excited.
It still didn't come through though. So
No, it's coming.
I was in we stopped at Starbucks before we came over here and the lady was all happy and shit. I was like, I wish I could be that happy. Just serving coffee, happy.
She
asking
probably
you.
drinks enough coffee all day to be that
She's
happy.
jacked up. She's stealing
Yeah.
the product, man.
It's like worse than Dutch Brothers.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to Dutch Bros where they're just
those
happy and
guys,
shit?
yeah.
Like you're like my best friend in the whole wide world because I'm buying coffee from
Well, first of all, they're all
For $8.
teenagers. So they're teenagers. They don't have any grip of reality.
It's everything's fucking unicorns
yeah,
and
unicorns,
butterflies.
rainbows, and that's what they serve there. So, yeah.
So we're in the studio again today, Mark and I, and we're not going to confirm or deny, but there may be a final bid at the end of the day for Mark's painting. Now, the rumor is it's $101, which I think is bullshit because I left you outside there for not more than 5 minutes, and now you've got a double bid than I did.
What I told him was, hey, have you even seen that podcast
Motherfucker,
where we painted?
It came in. Dude, it was a fucking $101.
That's $101 US for Mark's painting.
That's bullshit.
Well, hey, he won mine. It's not like he's not going to buy yours.
He already
so-
bought mine.
Okay, so
and
I
then
don't know
you
what you're
fucking
crying about.
went in there and solicited him to purchase yours.
No, what I
for
told
a
him
higher
to do
amount.
was, hey, make sure you check out the podcast so you can see us painting the paintings that
No,
you bought.
something else happened.
Bought. Okay,
Something
whatever.
else fucking happened out
Yeah,
there.
you know
I
what
don't
else happened?
Did you give him $101 to fucking buy your own painting?
You think I got 100? I don't even have $1 to give away, much less 101.
Okay, so outside of the painting, we'll come back to that later, but we have someone in the studio who's better looking than you.
Always.
And
Not
frankly,
on camera.
he's kind of pretty. He's got pretty eyes. And
Okay.
the woman across from him will attest to that.
You've gone to talking from art to how pretty the man is next to you.
Well, you
just
can't miss him on
Have you
camera.
changed teams on us here?
No, you just can't on camera. You can't miss him. He works out. He's hunky.
Hey.
He's hunky.
Well,
And he, well, we'll let him tell his story. So we, in the studio today, we have Josh Pueblo. And we'll let him kind of, and you don't have to go over, like, in detail because all we have to do is say, look, just watch the fucking video because it's all over YouTube. So more about just kind of all the stuff that happened, the after effects, if it's still going on. And we have his wife, Brittany, here. Prior to going live here, Josh said, this is the first time I've said it without having meds.
Yeah.
So who the fuck knows what's going to happen. But why ruin Mark's happy day?
hey, because I want you to tell your story and let everybody and tell it the way you want to.
Yeah.
That's how I want it told.
And, you know, how you came in contact with our fucking crazy asses. And maybe we can talk a little bit about some of the officers that were there and just all the other stuff that they kind of go to the wayside, you know, like you called yourself a unicorn when you did that stuff with the news media for us because you got injured. It was clear. It was all over TV. Nobody's going to question the fact that you're injured because you got shot. So.
But we don't want to break into it, so just take it away.
Yeah. So kind of tell what happened.
Much detail as
What
you
happened? Well, it was April 23rd, 2016. It was Saturday. We got done. We worked in day shift. We got done with briefing early, and Sarge told us, check your emails, hit the road. It was a senior day team, and there was a newer officer on the team. I think he'd been on the team for 2 weeks. So as soon as he said, hit the road and check your emails, he hit the road. Everyone else that's senior and had 15 plus years on went to debrief and went to check their emails. I grabbed my rifle and logged on. And by the time I logged on, he was already on his first call, probably already on scene. So I went to back him up. It was before 6:30 that we had logged on, hit the road. He was on a trespass call. As I was heading there, I was working the beat next to him. I was expecting the kid to be gone. I'd been on the board for a while, expecting the kid to be gone, him to be clearing the call, and I was going to go type report from the day before. So I'm driving, and he's still on the call. I get there, and he's been on the call. He's been on scene for like 7 minutes. So I park behind him and go in. It's at a Walmart. Simple trespass is all that's in there. It says the manager's calling in. She's trespassed this kid earlier or a couple weeks before, and he's back at the store.
So, not to interrupt you, how much time did you have on the department at the time?
I had a little over 3 years on.
So pretty seasoned, right? You're a veteran.
You've seen some stuff, sure.
The other guy had, I believe, less than a year. Like I said, he was new to our team. Someone had left. It was, 3 months into the year, so someone had left the team, so he'd taken his spot and just got to the less than 2 weeks on the team. I didn't really know him. I had been on a couple calls with him, but that was about the extent. I was an extra on the team, so I just floated to the open beats. I got the beat next to his that day, and that's why I wound up there. But I get there. I'm walking in. I have no idea where he's at. Nothing's been run in the call. I check the call to see if he's ran anybody, see if their information comes up, see if there's any priors, see if he's been trespassed. Nothing there. Nothing's attached. So I walk in, and as I walk through the doors, there he is with the kid, 10 feet in the doors, sitting in the McDonald's. Kid sitting down, hands are on the table, completely compliant. He's talking to him, and I'm looking for the reporting party to see if they have any paperwork, to see if this is the actual guy, see what's going on. Mm-hmm. As I got there, I looked at the other officer, and he looked surprised to see me. But he didn't give me any sign that he was going to arrest him or anything was going on. And he had an earpiece in, so he was running him on info, and I didn't hear anything.
So you didn't know that he had switched over to run him?
I didn't know he had switched over, and then I hadn't switched over to hear anything.
So you were still on patrol channel?
I'm still on patrol. He's on info, 2 different channels. I don't hear anything, and I don't get any feedback from his mic because he's got the earpiece in. He's taking everything. It's completely off air. And I want to say I'm in the store 13 seconds, and I hear him say, don't reach for that. Don't reach for that. As the kid stands up, he says, don't reach for that. And he steps in front of me to go towards him. And as he steps in front of me, I look around him, and that's when I take the first shot through the face. Spins me around, and I take the next one in the elbow. And then he puts 2 more shots in the other officer's chest that are within an inch of the top of his vest. I fall to the ground. The other officer goes flying across towards the door. As the kid runs out, he puts 1 more shot in my back as I'm on the ground. And he runs out the door. The other officer hits his matrix skills and shoots and drops the guy.
I think you can see that on the YouTube video.
Yeah, it
Right?
really is like Matrix.
Quite impressive.
If I was good at editing, I'd put it right here, but I'll try.
The other officer shot back and
shot back and put him down. I can't see anything. I'm trying to get away. Blood's pouring out of my face. I can't. All I can hear are the shots going off. I hit the emergency button on the mic, and I'm waiting for a tone back, and I get nothing.
Ugh.
It's open air, but I don't know it, and I didn't. And as I'm doing it, as I'm retreating into the store, all I can hear are shots, and I'm counting, and I'm like up to 11.
Wow.
And I don't hear the other officer. I don't hear anything. So I'm thinking he's taking all those rounds. Mm. As I get apparently back to the tomatoes, as they say, I ruined the whole display of tomatoes, bled all over them. I'm able to, I just reach back and make sure my mic's on and then queue up and call for help. And then as soon as I do that, I hear the other officer yell, don't move. So I now know he's returned fire and he's okay. But I don't know anything else going on. I can't focus. I can't see anything. As I get in the store at some point watching the video, I go, there's islands of vegetables. I go 2 islands in, so I'm in the back corner, and then somehow come back apparently to watch what's going on, not being able to see. As I'm sitting there, there's a maintenance man with Walmart that comes and starts talking to me. He just makes sure, telling me I'm all right, telling me to talk on the mic, telling me where I'm shot, because at the time I had no idea I was shot in the arm. The only shot I knew was to the face. I didn't know how bad. I didn't know anything. And actually before him there was a little old Mexican lady that was cleaning up at Walmart, and she looks at me and says, "Are you okay?" And I can't help but laugh at her and just say no. And she hands me paper towels, and I look at them, and I don't know what to do with them. So I just cover my face. Like, I don't know where I'm shot. I don't know how bad it is. I don't know, because all I have is blood coming out of my mouth, and I can't breathe. Yeah. And then the older gentleman gets there and assesses me, and he's telling me to talk on the mic. And it's funny, I can remember all the radio traffic of everyone else talking. I can hear dispatch talk back to me. They give me the hot tone, but don't really know why.
Right.
I hear the other officer on our team say, "I think he just said he was shot." And then I can hear the guys talking as they're coming, of asking where we're at in Walmart, and dispatch saying they're at Walmart. And him like, "Yeah, it's a big store. Like, where are they at?"
Yeah.
And I can recall all that chatter. I didn't ever reply back. They were asking questions, but I couldn't focus enough. The guy was handing me my mic, telling me to talk to him. But I'm waiting for the other officer on scene to say something, and he never comes on the radio the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Is it because he's on info channel?
He's on info.
So,
and they never crossed the channel. They never
patched it
through. But apparently, in the dispatch at the time, they got flooded because everyone in Walmart decided to call 911 as soon as shots were fired. So they got an overload of 911 calls, which sends off an alarm in dispatch. So they can't talk, they can't hear, they can't do anything in dispatch because this alarm's blaring, because they can't clear all the 911 calls coming in.
Oh, jeez.
So they're not even having time. They don't know that we're both together. They don't know we're on scene. The girls sitting next to each other don't have time to talk because they're trying to dump all these calls of, "Hey, they're shooting at Walmart," and they can't. And I can remember at the time being so upset at why they're not saying. They're telling lieutenants to stand by, like, and I can't figure out why. What is more important than what's going on here is what. But apparently this alarm goes off, and it's so loud that they couldn't even hear each other in the dispatch.
Did you ever find out what the fuck the alarm's for? What's the point of the alarm?
The overload of 911 calls. So they know to not take any non-emergency calls. Everybody needs to jump on 911 because they have so many call takers for non-emergency.
It's just a lymphatic in the system. Basically.
And so what happens to your dispatchers?
Well, they've now switched it to where the alarm's not as loud, or that a supervisor can actually silence it. But before, nobody knew. They had never had it to where they had all these calls coming in and couldn't kick them to Gilbert or kick them out of the system.
First time anomaly,
yeah.
Basically. Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't that be typical for a huge event like that in a big place? Like, everybody's calling 911 at the same time. Wouldn't that?
Yeah, it would
Seems
be,
like a
but they've
fault in
never
the
had
system.
it.
They've never had any.
Yeah, I
Never
think
had it.
it would
First time.
depend on the size of the agency too. A lot of those bigger agencies don't have that. I don't know how the agency where he was working at did it, but we had 911 in my agency. We had 911 call takers. That's all they did was 911, and then on a totally different side of the area, they had dispatchers. So they were getting relayed
Gotcha.
back and forth. I don't know about there.
It's kind of the same setup, but the way they communicate is they have to type to each other. I mean, they have to message across the board and send the call over, but then they have the non-emergency calls and everybody else. When that alarm goes off, everyone's supposed to start taking the calls because they can all do each other's jobs, apparently.
Yeah, you're cross-trained, I think. So
Okay.
Go
So
ahead.
before we get off on the minutia and the technical stuff behind the scenes and the communications, get back in where you left off. So you're on the ground, and your other officer was talking on Channel B, so you didn't know about any communication from him.
Yeah, like I said, for the first, I counted up to 11 rounds thinking he's taken. When I first was shot, my first thought was, okay, I'm good, because I knew he was a SWAT medic before coming to our department. He worked at the fire department in Sierra Vista. He was a SWAT medic. So the first thing, as soon as I shot, I was like, all right, I'm going to be okay. As soon as I knew I was shot in the face, and my first thought was, well, I'm still conscious, still breathing, still coherent. I'm going to be okay as long as I don't bleed out. And he's a SWAT medic, so
we're good.
I'm good right now. I just got to wait this out. And then as I'm retreating, I'm counting rounds, and I'm not hearing him in any form. So I'm thinking he's going down, and I don't know where this guy's at because I can't see, and I'm headed in the store to try and get any distance of any kind. And I'm up to 11 rounds before I hear him yell back not to move.
Okay.
I don't ever remember seeing him. There is a point in the video where he comes, when other officers get there, he comes to check on me, but I don't recall seeing him or anything at any point. So I'm on the ground with the gentleman from Walmart. He's prior military, prior detention officer, so he wasn't alarmed by any of it. He's seen, and he was able to talk to me, calm me down. So I'm getting calmed down, and that's when the first officers responding show up. And I hear them start trying to figure out what to do. Everyone that shows up is lay down. Everyone lay down. Can't lay down. I can't breathe.
Yeah, I know.
So I'm sitting up. They start bantering over putting a tourniquet on my arm. And I remember distinctly the first officer saying, "Fuck it, we're putting it on. It's all we can do." So they put it on. And at that point, I had calmed down. I honestly felt like I was going to be okay. I was just spitting up a lot of blood, and then pain like I've never felt. The shots didn't hurt. That tourniquet is the worst pain I've ever felt in my life.
Oh,
Man, that's interesting.
that's fucking nuts, dude.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I remember looking before they put it on, and all I saw was a black dot at my elbow. That was it. I don't remember seeing a stream of blood. I just remember a black dot. And he's like, it was bleeding. It was bleeding a lot. With what was coming out of your face, we felt like we had to stop something. They put it on. I don't fault them.
Sure.
But instantly, the worst pain I've ever felt in my life. Finally, another officer tries to hold me up, and he knees me in the back to hold me up. That's the first time I knew I was shot in the back. I had no idea until he put his knee there to brace me, and it hurt.
So a lot of your senses are coming back.
Yeah.
Adrenaline's
So
starting
the
to
vest,
fade.
the vest stopped that round.
Yeah, that round completely in the vest, small bruise.
Okay.
All it was.
Any internal damage or like broken ribs in the backside? Nothing.
Nothing.
Just sore when he put that.
When
knee
he
there,
put, that's the only time. I mean, when I woke up in the hospital, my back, it was bruised, but I didn't have any pain with it, any feeling.
Okay.
Fire finally shows up, and immediately lay him down.
Yeah.
again with
And I'm
fucking
like,
laying down.
As soon as I tell him I can't lay down,
That blows my mind that they're always wanting to lay down a head injury, which is not what you're supposed to do.
but as soon as I was able to tell him, and having heard from them after, they're in immediate relief that I can talk, because they weren't expecting
Yeah.
me to say anything. So finally they let me sit up, and they cut everything off, and it's the 3 shots and nothing else. But by the time they got there, they were starting to cut stuff off, and I'm like, I have no idea if I'm shot anymore. I'm pretty sure all the blood is just from my face. Like, there's nothing else shot. But once I got kneed in the back, it was like, I don't know. Go ahead and cut everything off. I don't know where I'm shot.
Right.
So they don't really get anything to stop. They put me on the gurney and wheel me out. And as they're wheeling me out, I get to see him, the suspect, rolled back over with holes in him. Shirt was cut off. And at the time, it was like, I was shocked that they had had time to work on him or do anything.
They treated him too, simultaneously, apparently, right?
But I don't even think they did that. I think they got there and he was, they
Oh,
checked him and he was gone.
Gotcha. Okay.
But I was able to see him, the holes, and there was relief to me in that part.
The threat's gone.
Yeah. They put me in the ambulance, and I feel like I sat there for, it felt like hours.
Right.
I was sitting in there with the sergeant. I gave him the wife's number. I gave him my mom's number. And I told him directly, I said, someone has to go pick them up. They can't drive. You need to send somebody to pick them up. The whole time I did that, as I'm talking to him, clear as day, fine, my phone was in my pocket, and I never once reached for it to call them. In my mind, I was going to see them at the hospital.
Right.
I was going to have time to talk to them. I didn't need to. It wasn't crucial. Like, the bleeding had pretty much stopped. I could talk. I was breathing. They could send somebody. And at the time, I mean, the hospital's 2 miles away from the Walmart I got shot at. So I'm thinking, by the time I get there, they'll be right behind. I'll get to talk to them. I don't need to call them. I don't need to freak them out.
Mm-hmm.
Let them call them. Let them get them there, and then I'll talk to them there. I get to the hospital. They take me in for a CAT scan. They lay me down.
Again.
So I tell the doctor, you lay me down, I can't breathe.
Yeah.
Well, they think his throat's swelling. We need to intubate him. We need to put him out.
Right.
That quick. So
Fuck.
now I'm out. I haven't talked to anybody, and they're putting me out.
Holy shit.
Mm.
So that was it for me. I was put out. I don't know where my wife or where my mom was, if they were even on their way yet. I don't know. I was out, and I wake up the next day, the next night. They did the first surgeries. They said told my wife, we're going to keep him under for 4 days. We got to do another surgery. We'll just keep him under. He'll be out for 4 days, and then we'll do that other surgery, and then we'll wake him up.
Wow.
I was burning through all the medicines through the night, so they just said, just take him off, let him wake up. She had gone home. My mom had stayed. She had gone home because it was going to be 4 days.
Yeah, right.
So she had gone home. She had left work that day. She goes home, and I wake up strapped to the bed, can't move, can't breathe, and they hand me a piece of paper, and I ask for her. And that's when they tell me she's not there. They send her home.
How? Well, let's catch your breath. I know Brittany's having a rough time. Did so during that time frame? Well, let's just go back just a little bit. So, did you ever see the gun? Did you ever any of that in the Walmart? Did you see any threat? You just heard that?
No.
Don't reach for that, and that was it. And
I heard don't reach for that, and he stepped in front of me. I went to look around him. As I grabbed my gun, I went to veer around him, and I didn't see a flash. I didn't see anything. It was just
you got your gun out. In
You cleared
response
leather
to a
on that
threat.
yeah.
yeah.
It was just right to the face and
Where-
spun me.
Can you point right to where?
Went right through under my left eye.
That was his first round,
The
right?
first round, and then came out my right cheek.
Okay.
And then the second round caught me in the elbow as it spun me up. I grabbed the next one with my elbow, and I fell down on all fours. And then, like I said, he shot the other officer twice to the top of the vest, sent him flying, and then as he ran past me, you can see in the video, he points it right at my back and just unloads it as he runs out the door.
And the other officer was able to get his gun out, return fire, and put the suspect down.
Yeah, he's able to get the gun out as he's flying through the air, lands on his hip. I don't know how he didn't shoot his foot off, and is able to return fire.
What an amazing bunch of marksmanship.
Yeah,
Yeah, when you watch the video, I'll put a link in the description. But
Tell
when
you
you
what.
watch the video, he fucking
For
they're feet apart, and he's
I
firing
did
from
see
his
it.
ass.
I've seen it, and
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, man, that's some
That's an intense shootout right
for
there.
being a guy that's been on the street that little bit of time. Man, that's
Some
some
clarity.
serious composure.
yeah.
And base
He credited
training.
all to his SWAT training
Yeah,
with fire, where they cross trained with the SWAT team and stuff.
fantastic.
That's fucking
work.
amazing shit right there. So,
Yeah.
back to the rough part where you were talking about they sent Brittany home. What were you think? What was upsetting you about that? Was the fact that they sent her home? Did you have a different thought process? Like, why'd they send her home? Or
Or were you just the aloneness?
For me, I was just coming out of it. I was confused all around.
Sure.
I didn't know how long it had been. I didn't know. I was just confused when they said she wasn't there. I wasn't expecting that.
so when did they make the decision from 4 days, when they tell Brittany, hey, he's just going to be down for the next 3 or 4 days, to was it a different shift that comes in and makes that decision? Did you ever find out?
No.
You never found out?
Mm-mm.
So who told you that hey, we're just putting him down for the next 3-4 days?
It was the first people when we got there. They laid out this whole plan that they had, and that was part of it. And I let his mom stay. I didn't know more than one person can stay at the hospital. So I let her stay in the room, and I knew he was going to be out for 4 days. So I went home, and I got a call from his mom that next morning saying they woke him up and he asked for you. And
How did you feel like fucking betrayed by the
no, I just felt like shit for leaving. Like the fact that he had to wake up and I wasn't there.
right?
Like I just wish I would have stayed there.
And that that wasn't your fault. I mean, that's
Yeah.
a decision. Many of us here will tell you we've made decisions and then we start second guessing ourselves, and there's no way you could have possibly fucking known that they would have said let's wake him up, And I know that's I can't even begin to say that I know or I understand, but I can see just the fucking terror of that, reliving that. So we'll pass the incident and then go straight into where Mark talks about this, and I know did you start seeing a loop, like almost while you were in the hospital? Were you?
No, I didn't. I didn't have any thoughts. I never had. I mean, it was probably.
When was your first? I don't know. I don't want to call it a psychotic episode, but when was your first mental, emotional thing, Josh, where you were feeling like, hey, man, I'm kind of had a flashback. Not even a flashback, but this is in my mind.
I don't even think it was that. At the beginning, my struggles were with breathing because I had been intubated, because my nose was now packed. I had to do all the breathing out of my mouth, and your mouth gets dried out very quick. You can't clear your throat. You can't, and it's almost like you can't catch your breath. So there was once in the hospital where, and I'd never had one, I was having a panic attack because I couldn't breathe. They're giving you a sponge to suck on, and I can't get my mouth wet enough to, I can't catch my breath, and I'm starting to freak out. So they gave me some medicine in the hospital, and then it went away. And then it was probably after we'd been home for
not very long,
less than a week. I woke up, same thing, couldn't breathe, couldn't catch my breath, couldn't calm down, completely losing it, knowing I'm breathing, I'm just fine, but I can't calm myself down no matter what I do.
Right.
And I'm pacing in the house. Now I'm sweating like I'm having a complete panic attack over breathing, which I'm breathing. I just can't clear the back of my throat, and it's freaking me out. And that's what I'm telling her. You're going to have to call somebody. They can't do anything. I don't know what to do. I don't know. You can call the fire department, but they're going to get here and not be able to do anything. And it probably went on for an hour before I could calm down that night. And then it was probably about the same time I was starting to have some nightmares of being, they weren't the same, but I was in a pursuit, and I would come around the corner and be shot in the face. And I would fall to the ground and then wake up after being shot in the face. Nothing, walking into the Walmart, none of that ever looped. Nothing ever came back. Mm-hmm. But I was having off and on some random nightmares of all being shot in the face.
So when you talked about that pursuit and you came around the corner and you got shot in the face, did that pursuit actually happen, or was it something you imagined?
Something I imagined completely.
Okay.
I never, nothing.
But then the parallel chord was the fact that you had been shot.
Yeah.
And so that was what your fear was, being shot in the face again.
Yeah.
And this wasn't your first shooting, right? You had one prior to that.
I had one August the year before.
It's almost a year later.
Yeah.
And so Brittany, did you recognize any, aside from what you were saying, that on your side where you struggle with the fact that you made the wrong decision in your belief, but did you notice anything different in him when he was, how long were you in the hospital?
6 days.
I always get that wrong. I don't know.
What does he say, like a year?
I don't know.
Usually like 4 days, because I knew I was supposed to be under 4 days and got done early. I don't know why, but the days you're up, it's the same lighting all the time, so it's just one long day. No matter, I was there for a week, but it was one long day.
Yeah.
So did you notice anything other than what he was describing, the panic attack? Did you notice anything in the change in him?
I mean, he was pretty heavily medicated when he first came out of the hospital. I mean, he was drinking protein shakes in the hospital because he was going to go back to work, and he was ready to go, and I was freaking out because I didn't want him to. That was before he knew he had the nerve damage in his arm. But, yeah, he was, I'm going to go back to work. And then we got home, and it kind of just changed from there. He was kind of numb, just no reaction to anything, like no emotional response.
From the meds?
Probably. And then he got off all the narcotics because they weren't doing anything anyway. And that's when it all kind of just set in and it hit him.
And you seriously wanted to get back in that fucking cruiser after that?
In the hospital.
Yeah.
You're in the hospital, you're like trying to figure out how you're
saying,
going to get back to your squad.
Yes.
You're like, they can't run short, man. It's minimum staffing.
Yeah.
Not so much that. Shot in the face. It was just like, I'm going to recover, and then inevitably that'll be what happens as you go back to work.
Is that, so let me ask you, looking back now, and we'll get to your status, but is that because it's a never quit thought process with us? Like we're not going to leave them hanging? What was your thought in going back after you'd been shot? Like most people would be like, I got shot, I'm fucking done.
Can I answer that? Because I know your answer to that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
He signed up for that. In his head, when he signed up to be a police officer, he knew he was going to get shot. Like, he knew that was going to happen. It was just a matter of time, and he had mentally prepared for that for 3 years. And so when it happened, it was just another day on the job, and let's get back up and go again.
That might be a good thing, though, to prepare for that, because what you were saying, you're like, you recognized you were shot, you processed who was on scene, you were processing a lot of stuff. It wasn't a shock to him. I don't know if that's a good thing to think about, but you prepared for it, right, mentally?
Yeah. I mean, I did. I waited till I was 30 to start testing and get hired because I had a fear of being shot. For whatever reason, it wasn't a surprise to me when it happened the first time or the second time.
So when you met Brittany, were you already a cop?
Yeah.
Okay, so you came in and he was already. How long had you been married? Was she around for the first shooting?
Yes.
Yeah. So you had already been through one critical incident with him.
Yeah, that one was different because he called me and he said, "Hey, I was in a shooting. I'm okay, but don't watch the news." And that was the end of it.
Any
I'm like,
side effects
okay.
from that shooting that did you see any change in him?
No.
None?
No.
Same guy.
Nothing. Yep. He went to the assessment afterwards.
Yeah, 3-day
like
psych.
Yeah, the psych eval, and I don't know. It was like he knew what to say to make it go away. I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's what we do. Because he's trying to get back in the hospital. You're trying to get back to the unit again.
But he just went to that site where that first shooting was on Friday and had like anxiety the whole time because he was in that area.
You mean like 2 days ago, Friday?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like
2 days ago.
Whose idea was it to go there?
Just happened by or what?
No.
Jax had a baseball tryout, so
I
he took him
filled it.
to that.
Because it was at basically in front of a Valley Christian High School. So when I got back to scene, they put me in the high school, and we're going to sit here and you're going to wait for your lawyer. All that took place in the high school. Well, he was playing on the field across the street.
And that was the
from
first
high
time you
school.
had been back?
I had been back on shift. I'd driven by when I worked there, but it's been probably almost 4 years now since I had ever been in the area.
So you had a panic attack back there this Friday? Or what?
Just anxiety, just like I could, real tense, real
Agitated,
and nothing
irritated.
going like for no reason. I mean,
So
just
you recognize
that
it.
exact spot. Yeah.
So you're recognizing in yourself you're a different
Yeah.
person.
Did you then, though, when you were trying to get back, like Brittany said, like you're trying to get back to your squad?
No, but like she said, I was heavily medicated. I mean, to the point where they wouldn't. I'm telling them it still hurts, and they're like, "We can't give you any more."
Yeah.
And then
Right.
I get out of the hospital. I'm seeing a doctor like, "Hey, I'm about out of meds." He's like, "Yeah, you're on too many for me to be comfortable with. I'll give you 3 days. You need to go find someone else to
Holy shit.
get you
Ooh,
meds."
wow.
Damn. So what were you thinking, Brittany, when he tells you, I need to get back? Did you tell him fucking quit the job? What?
She was telling other people I was going to go back.
Yeah, I mean, I know Josh, and I knew his mindset in that he was going to do it. I didn't want him to. It was terrifying to even think about him going back to doing it, and I knew if he did, it would never, like, I would never be okay saying bye to him that morning. Like, it would just be completely different. But, I mean, I've told him that I'm relieved that he has nerve damage in his arm because I know 100% if he didn't, he would have went back.
Yeah.
And that would be terrifying. Like, I don't know how anyone does it.
It's how we are. That's who we are. We go back. So real quick, he went through that day. He went through his day that day. That day for you, what was that day like?
Well, I went to work at 5 a.m. and I was taking a credit card application and my phone rang. It was sitting on the desk next to me, so I saw it. It was a 480 number or 6. It was our area code. And then it popped up that I had a voicemail. And there's pre-recorded things in the credit card disclosure, so I pressed play on that and I listened to the voicemail. Am I allowed to say names?
Just don't.
Not unless they're here.
Okay. And the first thing it says, "This is Sergeant so-and-so from the Chandler PD. There's been an incident and I need you to call me back." So I don't know how, but I finished the credit card application. It was almost over, but I was shaking like I had something wrong with me. Like, I've never shook like that. And I turned it off and I turned around to my boss and I said, "I have to go. Like, I don't know what to do. Josh has been in an incident." And she's like, "Calm down. He's okay." I'm like, "No, you don't understand. The last time there was an incident, he called me, and this time he didn't call me. It's not okay. It's not okay." And I was freaking out, and she just hugged me, and she's like, "Call him back. Like, figure it out." So I called him, and he just said, "Where are you at? I need to come pick you up. There's been an incident. He's okay." but I need to come get you. Wouldn't give me any details about that. So I told him where I was. I asked him if I could meet him there, and he said no, that he needs to pick me up. I don't know why I didn't realize where he would be and just go myself, but I decided I was going to just wait. I called my mom and I told her I was freaking out standing in the parking lot. It felt like forever. And then one of my friends whose husband is a Gilbert PD officer texted me and said, "Hey, I heard there was a Chandler officer shot. Is Josh okay?"
Oh, boy.
Motherfuckers, man.
Yeah.
We're
So-
the worst at that shit.
Yeah, I'm like,
well,
well,
everybody's in a panic mode.
Yeah, it is.
It's-
Fuck. And then you text
It's a
them,
panic
motherfucker.
mode, so everybody's just
Yeah.
trying to rest assured, but
Yeah.
it happens.
right. So at that point, that's when I knew he was shot. I still had no idea what was going on. My mom was trying to watch the news. I was on the phone with her. And then the sergeant pulls up or calls me and I tell him where I'm at, and he comes. And I get in the car, and Josh's mom is in the car too. And I'm like, so I get in the back seat. She's in the front seat, and we look at each other. I'm like, what's going on? And she's like, I don't know anything. And he just sat there quietly, like didn't tell us anything. I'm listening to the radio, and they're talking about McDonald's and how they didn't turn off their air fryers. And I'm like, who the hell cares about McDonald's?
You're
and their
listening to the
stupid
radio
air fryer?
traffic?
Yes. I'm like,
That's fucking awesome.
isn't McDonald's open right now? Like, why does this matter? Had no idea what was happening. And everybody at work had said, yeah, I saw a bunch of cops at Walmart on the way into work. So it's something at the Walmart, but I didn't put two and two together that the McDonald's in the Walmart and whatever. So we drive to the hospital, we get out, we go into this tiny little room, and we sit on a couch, and like 7 doctors come in. Like the whole room is filled with medical staff. And they started off with, Josh is okay, but he was shot 3 times, once through the face. And that's when I just shut down, and I couldn't contemplate how he was okay and shot in the face.
Right.
Like those 2 things didn't compute.
Right.
And Josh's mom started crying. So I was like touching her, and I don't know, I kind of just blacked out, I guess, and was trying to listen, but it wasn't working. And then they said that they had to intubate him, that he was sleeping. And they told us the whole plan of 4 days and the surgery and all that. So they took us back to see him in the ER, and he was just laying on a bed. His face was bandaged, and he was intubated. Sorry.
Take your time. You can catch your breath.
The one in his arm wasn't bandaged or anything, and just like he describes, it was just a little black dot. Like it was bleeding, but it wasn't like obviously enough for them to cover it. But I just kissed him and told him I loved him and that I was there. And my family showed up. Josh's sisters showed up. Good friends of ours showed up, and everybody was there. And then they took him away for surgery, and they brought him back out, and he was still asleep. And that's when they told us that he was going to be asleep for 4 days. And so I went home, and I wish I wouldn't have, but I came back the next morning, and they woke him up, and I was there for that. Because when they woke him up in the middle of the night, they put him back to sleep. They just woke him up for however long and then put him back under. So the next morning I was there when they woke him up again. And then they decided to take the breathing tube out, which they had to clear the room for. But they had to do like breathing tests prior to that. And that itself is like a form of torture, because they basically turn it off and then make sure he can breathe.
Yeah.
But he's choking, and
Yeah.
he feels like he can't breathe.
You remember that?
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
fuck
Oh,
that
it's
shit.
horrible.
Man. That's fucking
I'm-
horrible.
Strapped to the bed, and it's some old lady that's doing the test. And I'm looking at her like, help me.
Ugh.
Because this lady, as she's doing it, she's explaining it to them and turns her back to
that's
me.
good results. Like, oh yeah, you see this? That's what you want. You want it to be
It's
this
like
high. I'm
fucking waterboarding him.
okay, turn it back on.
paying
yes,
no
exactly.
attention to me. I'm gagging on the balloon that's deflated all the way down
Fucking
my throat, and I
shit.
can't breathe.
Yeah, it was horrible.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, that's fighting a natural
Yeah.
instinct where you're coughing and gagging and suffocating. So,
Yeah.
terrible.
So, I know, Brittany, you've talked on some of our stuff about like PTSD is real. Did you have a belief in that with with police officers, or you just didn't have a belief in it? You had mentioned it in one of the.
It's not that I didn't have a belief of it. I just never associated it with police officers. Like, I've heard of PTSD with the military. Like, that's all. Like, my dad has PTSD from the military. I'm very aware of symptoms and all of that now. But I'd never associated it with cops. Like, I never even thought twice about what cops go through, what cops see every day. It's just the cop is the person pulling me over and giving me a ticket, and that's your job, and that's it. Like, I'd never realized the in-depth things that cops do and what they see and deal with every single day.
And so now, what's the thought process now? Like, if you talk to someone, what's the conversation like then?
I mean, my first instinct, I have friends that their husbands are police officers. I want to know if they're okay, or if they need help. And my guess is every single police officer needs help. Like, if not to the extent of PTSD, but to the extent of, wow, that was fucked up. How do I deal with that? Like, was that normal? Is my reaction normal? Like, I think every police officer needs to at least talk about it or sit with someone who's seen the same crappy situation and just get it out there.
That's a great perspective.
Thank you.
Very
The
good.
wife's perspective. That's the shit we need to
and
hear.
You know what though? And I don't want to sound sexist, but it's also a female perspective, and I think they're just by nature. I think they're more intuitive to things like that, where we're trying to soldier on. I just can't wait to get back, and I'm gonna recover through this. And
Yeah,
stuff
we're
like
trying to get back. This
She's
motherfucker
seeing
got
it.
shot, and he's ready
I
to
know,
go
I'm
back.
just saying, and I think they have they're more aware of certain things in a human aspect, and that's a good perspective. to
It's
share.
necessary.
Yeah.
I'm glad you spoke on that.
Can you talk about your? So I know Josh went through the trauma. He went through the horrific scene of a man pulling a weapon on him and shooting him and all that. But what you described was what a nightmarish situation. I mean, I was choked up as you were breaking down talking about it. What about your trauma?
Well, I don't walk in the produce side of Walmart.
Yeah, so it's had an effect
any
on you
Walmart
and in your
is-
daily,
yeah.
in your daily routines and stuff.
Yeah, every time we walk in and I see the restaurant here and the produce here, I have waves of anxiety because I've seen the video.
Mhm.
I can see it all. I wasn't there. I didn't live it, but I see him walk past all of it. Like, I can see the Matrix stuff that the other officer did, and it just, it makes me nauseous.
How many times have you seen the video?
Once.
Just once? Was it by? I know it probably wasn't like you woke up and said, "I'm going to go look at it."
No.
What drove you to actually watch the video? Was it curiosity, just because you wanted to see what he had been through? Was it somebody's idea?
I watched it with him the first time.
So you guys watched it together for the first time.
It was December of that year. They were getting ready to release it to the media. So the PD called and said, "Hey, it's been released." The county attorney said, "We can release it. Do you want to come in and view it before it hits the news?" And originally she said, "No, I don't want to see it." And then it was like a week later, I was going down to see it, and she's like, "Yeah, I think I need to see it."
So you saw it together.
Yeah.
So Brittany, you guys went through this as you went through the shooting as a family, and that's what a lot of the people in the audience don't know. Like what you said, here's the cops. We don't think about this. You're pulling people over. You're giving them the tickets, and that's the cops. And so now, going through this traumatic event, like what advice do you have for spouses of police officers? Maybe they don't even get a shooting. Maybe they get into just a horrendous call, and if they bring it home and share it,
Yeah.
what would you give advice to that spouse?
My advice is to pay attention to what your spouse is doing. I know prior to any shootings, Josh had a call where an older couple killed themselves in their garage, in their car with a dog, and the heat had gotten to them, and he came home and described that scene.
Wow.
And went to sleep. Like, he just talked about it normal and then went to sleep and woke up in the middle of the night because he had dreamt about them, and he was talking about it in his sleep about the old couple and their dog. And that's when I kind of sat there like, okay, maybe that affected you more than you think it did if you're having dreams about it and waking up talking about it in your sleep. But yeah, just pay attention. Like, there's signs and symptoms of PTSD, but even before that, there's signs of trauma. If they're just telling you the story, then maybe that's it, but probably not. So I would definitely recommend them seeing someone else or going to Pistol, which is a huge support group for police officers.
Did
people
you
that
now?
have been
Did you
that
ask
through.
him to come to Pistol, or did somebody reach out to you?
Dave?
Well, yeah, my friend had run into Dave at a training, and he knew I was having a lot of trouble at the time with work comp. He's like, you got to talk to him. He can help you. So I ended up talking to Dave because I couldn't give him an excuse of I wasn't doing anything during the week but sitting at home. And they're like, can you meet with him? And I had no
You're like,
way
"I'm
to
busy."
avoid it, no way. And I didn't even know anything about Pistol at the time. He's like, you just need to talk to Dave. And all I knew of Dave was all the emails that came through Chandler of the legal updates. That's it. I knew
After
the name.
Ledesma.
He was gone before I got there. But all I knew of the name was all these legal updates as the cases were carrying on. So I didn't know him. I didn't know the depths of the story and all that. But I had no reason to not go meet him for coffee one day. And that's how we got there. And I don't know if I told her I was going or not. I know she was upset with me.
You just fucking showed up.
Because I'm like, hey, do you want to go to Pistol? And at first she's like, no. Okay.
Why'd you say no?
She was mad. I
Well,
went to
yes,
meet him
I didn't
to tell
know
her.
he met with Dave, and he decided to throw that on me. But my feeling about it was, well, what do you need help with? Why can't you why can't I help you?
Oh, I see.
And
Makes
initially
sense.
I was frustrated and mad that he couldn't talk to me and I wasn't enough to fix it.
Yeah, and hey, I've been here for you the whole time.
Right.
Gotcha.
Thinking back now, that was really stupid. It was a really childish reaction.
But it's a camaraderie thing and a love thing too. So
Do you
Yeah.
does it now having come to Pistol, does it kind of make sense why
Yes,
he
absolutely.
would need to? So how did it make sense to you, I guess? If you could explain it to a spouse who's struggling right now that said, why does my fucking husband need to go talk to these cops and not talk to me about it?
Because they've seen it too. Like, he can tell me about the couple in the garage, but I can't. I can picture it in my head of what I think it is, but you know exactly what that looks like. You
Right.
know what that smells like. You know what that feels like. I don't know any of that. So how can I help you? I mean, it's even for him, you want someone you can relate to that can be like, yeah, man, that sucks. I know exactly what you're talking about. I've been there. I've done it. I can't offer that. I can say, I'm sorry you had to go through that, and I don't want you to hurt, but I can't give the same support that someone else who's actually been in that situation can.
yeah, and it's not better support; it's just different.
It's different, yeah.
support, right?
And
And
keep
that's-
in mind, everybody, that spouses are welcome at Pistol meetings.
Yeah, Brittany's one
So-
of the biggest.
Yeah.
Like, we've gotten more positive feedback, but since you've had the little one now, people haven't had a chance to meet Brittany as much. But so, I mean, I really appreciate you guys coming out. I know I can see this. You still struggle with this. And how many years out are you from that?
A little over 3 years.
3 years. So one of the things I wanted to touch on before we come close to wrapping up is during that time frame. I know we have done some media stuff together, and you said, you know, I'm a unicorn because I got treated. You didn't have any problems with work comp at all?
Just slow, and for the first probably 6 months, I was just going to the appointments by myself until they assigned a nurse case manager to attend with me. And so I would need something, and I'm just waiting for the doctor to send it to work comp, for them to approve it, to send it back, the doctor to reach out to me. And to get something done, it was taking months, or me calling to hound them. Now with the nurse, she's there, the doctor says I need it, she can wait, get the note, and then speed up the process. But before, it was just like you're sitting waiting for an approval on physical therapy or an injection, and it can take who knows how long, and the doctor's office won't schedule the injection until they get the approval.
Right.
So it just slows everything down so much. And you ask people, and they're like, yeah, it sucks, you just got to deal with it. And that was all I could get from anyone in the union, anyone in the department, is, yeah, they suck.
As everybody just
And
knows.
like I said, that's why I was told to talk to Dave. Oh, he can help you with that. He can help you. And I didn't know why I was meeting him. I didn't know what Pistol was. I didn't know anything. It was just, he can help you, and he's got a relatable story with a ton of parallels to ours of what happened. And then being from the same department, when I first heard it, I was upset that no one had put me in contact with him, because it was probably 2 to 3 months after the shooting, and no one at Chandler had passed on his information. Like, nothing was ever given to me about it. I had no idea what it was.
I think you guys are so well insulated, though. Like in a situation like Dave's and yours, like there's so many people around you that it's hard for us to get. We've tried critical incidents like that. We've tried, but they're so well insulated. They don't know. I think with you guys coming on, it helps spread the word. But so when you did come, what was it? What did you get from it? I mean, were you like pleasantly surprised? Were you like, these are a bunch of weirdos?
No, I think it was in awe because as we're sitting there for the first time, everyone's telling her story, and she keeps hitting me, "You do that, you do that." And having talked to Dave, like it was the first time that I had associated some of the symptoms, the not sleeping, the headaches, with PTSD. Because to me, I was just shot in the face. Like
You
I'm
should
gonna have those
headache.
issues. Like I'm gonna get like all the signs I'm gonna have because I was shot in the face. Like I don't know, but in hearing, that those are symptoms of PTSD, and then as we sit there and everyone's telling these stories, and she's tapping me, you do that. It's like, okay, maybe I do need to be here, and it just made it easier to understand coming from everyone else and listening to everyone tell their story and looking at them and having it be someone you would want to work with or you would respect or that from someone else. It makes it easier to be acceptable to, I do that. That is.
I got a question for you on it, sort of a dovetail into that. So when Brittany said, you woke up from that horrific scene where you found the couple dead in the garage, you woke up from that, and then you had this major event here with your shooting. What advice could you give an officer who's out there still working, still on the streets, and maybe you needed that help back on that
I don't
dead
remember.
couple?
I don't remember any of that.
Okay.
She's said that like after you woke up from that, I'm like, I don't remember that. She's like, that bothered you.
So
I'm like,
based on your
I
perspective
don't remember
of
that.
where you are now and you know what the mental health field can give to you and you know what pistol can give to you, what advice would you give to an officer like, hey, when this starts happening, go get like some preemptive care?
Yeah, I think preemptive care would be great. I don't know that you need something to start happening to get it. I think if there was just a program to where you could bi-monthly or monthly just check in and get an update of where you're at, I think it would be best because it's going to affect everyone different. Just like we've all noticed that you can have two people that went through the same thing that are affected years apart or not at all. I think it's tough to say this is going to bother you. If this happens, you need to do this. But I think just understanding that at some point everyone's going to be affected to where they should probably talk to somebody and that it's not something that's going to end your career just because you had a symptom or a reaction to it.
Yeah, so I always encourage everybody to go out like this week and go get a baseline assessment of your mental health. Like I don't care if you've even been on like 3 years. Go get a baseline assessment of yourself, find out where you're at, and then get a checkup annually so you can see if you're sliding down or moving up or if you're staying the same. Kind of like what you just said.
Yeah, I think that would be great. I think if you could have a relationship with a doctor prior to would be huge too.
Yeah.
I mean,
Great idea.
You get told, like she said, to go in for a follow-up after a shooting, or Chandler has a 6-month follow-up. Like I was in for my 6-month follow-up 2 weeks before the next shooting. And it's not that you're trying to hide anything, but it's as simple, are you having nightmares? Who's going to, like, if I say yes, I'm probably coming off the road. So no, I'm good.
Yeah, we know what to say.
I mean, it's not even that you have to know what to say. You know what not to say. That's as simple as it comes down to.
That's the detriment to the PD-issued programs or the PD-monitored programs. That's why I want everyone to do it on their own. Like you can still use your insurance, and through HIPAA laws, they're not going to disclose that to your department. You can go in and say and be honest with your healthcare provider, like what you're saying, Josh. You have a relationship with a doctor prior to, and you just carry that with you through your career.
Yeah,
I think it'd be a great.
So
idea.
when you heard him talking, did that kind of fuck with you a little bit? Yeah, I know it fucked with you because I was losing it when I saw Brittany over here, and we got to catch our breath. But
it was getting me hard.
Having seeing that because he didn't see the gun and you did.
Yeah.
Right.
I was looking down the barrel of it, and when his gun went off, and it that muzzle blast hit my face.
Right.
And I could feel that heat of all that. I was just.
Did you feel any of that?
No, it just felt like I was punched in the face.
Yeah.
That was it. So what ended up happening? It went in your left eye.
It went in under the left eye and blew out my orbital, and then came out my right cheek, through the sinuses and out my right cheek.
What did he hit you with? 9?
No.
What was it?
A little LCP.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah.
A little zip gun. So one of the things that I wanted to touch base on before we get ready to wrap up, and I did talk to the officer beforehand. Recently, we were able to get you in contact. It was actually your doing. I know you had tried to get him to come to Pistol, and he did reach out, and you were able to see. How was that? When he was saying that about, there was he wished there was more that he could do for you. Like, what was that like when he was telling you that? Because I know he apologized to you.
Yeah, it's hard to hear because I should apologize. Like, what happened to me is what messed with him, not the other way around. Like, he had no control over.
You mean your partner on the scene?
Well,
the first one to me.
The first one to him, yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
The first officer that came to me and saw me,
okay.
And we'd met for lunch probably within the first month of it, and he had talked about some of his prior incidents and just telling me that I should probably get checked and asking if. And at the time, like I said, I was so medicated, I couldn't tell you if I was having side effects or not.
Right.
But I knew it affected him seeing me that way. I knew he had mentioned that the badge shouldn't look like that.
Interesting.
And to him, it really stuck with him.
So it scarred him. It scarred your wife.
Yeah.
Scarred your mother-in-law.
And the thing is that what we were talking about was, I asked that officer, I said, hey, what if somebody would have came up to you and asked if you were all right? Like, are you okay? And he was like, yeah, I was fine. And part of the issue is he doesn't want to take anything away from Josh, right? He's like, I don't want to say I'm fucked up because now I'm taking away from the guy who actually took the round.
Yeah, and it's like comparing.
Right. That incident
compared
envy.
to Josh, I'm doing great.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And he struggles with that.
Yeah.
I know that when he reached out to us, that was one of the first things that he asked was, hey, how's Josh doing? And because of anonymity, other than just the fact that everybody knows that you are part of Pistol because they see the media clips, I actually told him, I said, well, why don't you show up to group and you can ask him? And he was very happy to hear that shit. But that was a heavy, heavy group. We've only had one, and that was probably the closest to the one that was really heavy. But I thought it was kind of ironic that here's this officer who's struggling, who's not going to say anything because you took the round, right? We're looking, and he's suffering behind it, and he thinks he did something wrong. You think you did something wrong. There's no way. 13 seconds. Mark's, how long was yours? 6?
6.
So 6 seconds. I mean, we're talking nothing in time frame when it comes to making that decision, and you cleared leather in 13 seconds, which is really fucking awesome. But is that something that did that cross your mind prior, like when you knew that he was going to show up or you knew he had reached out? Did you ever, like during that time frame, and maybe that's a stupid question, but did you ever think, holy fuck, those guys saw me, like they're fucked up from seeing this?
Yeah, having talked to him, and we had talked, it had probably been over a year, maybe 2, since I had told him to come to group and try to get him. And he was set one day, and he got the text of, hey, I can't make it. Maybe next week. I can't get a babysitter, can't.
Regular excuses.
And it was like, how hard do I push to drag him here? Like, I knew it was probably where he needed to be, but it's that point of how hard do you push? How, if I back away, does it fade for him, or do I keep bringing it up? Am I going to keep stirring things up for him?
What's your answer to that?
I don't know. I don't know how hard you can bug him every day, and then am I just stirring up that thought every day for him and him still saying no?
Good thing you're mentioning that, because in 2 weeks from now, we're having another podcast, and it's called How to Save a Life. And it's basically how can you step in, and how would you like help as an officer? What would be an appropriate before it gets too invasive for you? How could you receive help? And then how could you give help, and when would you want somebody to call a medical professional or professionals outside of themselves because you're too far gone?
Yeah.
Well, and
so that's coming up.
So one of the things that strikes me as really fucking odd, and I know the listeners and the people that watch are going to, I hope they chime in and leave comments, was Josh and he comes over to Phoenix all the time, and we try to meet up every Friday for new food or whatever, and Brittany's joined us. But he told me one time, he's like, hey, I don't know that I belong in that group because I don't have as much time. How did you say it? You don't have enough.
I guess I always see it as everyone talks about spiraling down or getting in this dark forest. And it's like I got to the edge and I found Pistol and was able to get turned around and headed in the right direction, where everybody else had to spiral through and get lost before they were able to start getting help. So I don't have the struggles like everyone did. I found it sooner than most, and it was just by chance and me not being able to come up with an excuse. I wouldn't have walked in anytime sooner. I wouldn't have reached out for help. Like, I was medicated. I didn't know. I mean, I was medicated for the first 2 years on antidepressants for nerve pain that were, like she said, numbing me out to where even starting to recognize some of it. Once I came off those meds, it was like going through it all again. Mm-hmm. It was like going through the first day. But it's hard to, for me, it's hard to sit in there and listen to how horrible everyone's had to get there. Because I think, like you said, how do you get someone there? Well, I think most people get there, it's because you're at the end. You don't know what else to do. You're at the rope's end and you don't know where. Like, I never even got close to that. I don't feel I ever ventured that far into that spiral in that dark forest and with the demons that everyone else has danced with.
Yeah, and that right there is the reason. And that's the testimony, man. That should be like our baseline theme song right there. He got there early and he didn't go through all that. Mm-hmm. Do you get that? He got there early, went early, and didn't go through all the trauma or tumultuous times that the rest of us did. And I'm glad for that. I mean, I thank God for that. I really do.
Me too. Yeah, and probably one of the best. It's funny because as we go through these and we do the podcast and stuff, I get pretty close to some of the officers, and now, you know, we get to witness their daughter, Pistol, that's her name. That's what we named her. You might have heard her early on the podcast, chiming in. We were shooting for.
She was part of our studio.
We were shooting for her to be born on Josh's anniversary date.
That was her due date.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
That was her due date. Was the actual critical bizarre incident.
Wow.
So Brittany, I'll let you kind of take us off in wrapping it up. If there's, from a spouse's point of view, not from the officers, because I think we cover the officers pretty much, and you're the first spouse that we've actually had on. And the goal eventually is to have the room filled with spouses. So it'll be pretty much just all spouses.
So all of us just crying the whole time?
Pretty much. Or talking shit about how much of assholes we are and dicks.
It's cleansing though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Crying like that.
So,
and it's the camaraderie that you guys
so
have.
what would you, if you had to speak to a spouse, regardless of a shooting or a critical incident, because I know it's the same. We've talked to spouses before where they said, you know, I don't know what the fuck was going on. They just came and got me, and, you know, and then he's in the hospital and people are calling. But what would you say the best benefit for you as a spouse has been by attending Pistol? Is there a benefit, if any?
Absolutely. An understanding at most, or most of all, is just an understanding of what police officers go through, and just a whole new respect for police officers in general. But as a spouse, I think you just really need to step back and let somebody else help him, and I think that's what Pistol does. It offers, like you said, another form of support that I can't offer. It's different. But I think a lot of spouses are going to be, or police officers are going to be reluctant to get help. So that's why I said I think you, as a spouse, need to just pay attention to their behavior and how they are, and you need to reach out and get help for them. If you can't drag them there, then maybe reach out to Manny and let him do it.
I like that. So, sounds
All right,
like there's sounds like there's an emergency in the back, and it doesn't sound like she's calling for daddy. All right, so we'll wrap it up, and as always, like we always do, Mark, Josh, this is new to you, and I know there's probably rum in there, but for us, to us, and those like us, right?
Yeah.
And Josh, I really appreciate it. Mark, you don't see it on the camera, But my brother Josh here and I work out together, and you can see
I can see
the
similarities.
physique. Do you see the
It's like,
similarities
you
in
know
the
what
physique?
you got there? You got a before and after
Yeah.
shot. Before and after. I'm not going to say which one you are,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying.
Yeah, if we take our shirts off, we're going to get the same amount of dollars is all
Oh,
I'm saying.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
Sure, yeah.
If you want a stripper to show up, you know, you got a Hispanic and a nice
Yeah,
little white
yeah,
guy here.
Make
Man.
sure you specify who you're asking for.
All right. So, Josh, again, I appreciate it. I know that was a little rough doing it dry, no meds. And you're always welcome back for the podcast if you want to come back and join in.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks
You
a
guys
lot,
have.
man, and God bless
See you on the next one.
Yep.